Skip the line is got to be about the fact, because I know you well enough. You can articulate that everything isn't methodical. There are ways that are shortcuts that are often right in front of our eyes, but because everyone has always done it a certain way, we miss them. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I'm actually more interested in our last few minutes about you telling me about the fact that tell everyone when it's going to come out so they can buy it. But you went with a major publisher in that book, as opposed to most of your other books that I'm aware of are self-published, and I'm actually more interested in the distinctions and your. I mean, I know there's advantages, disadvantages to both, but just interested in your experience in that.
Yeah, and I'll explain also. Skip the line, and you are correct, and I'll explain in a slightly different way. I can remember every single microsecond over the past 40 years where someone told me I can't do something. Oh, you're a junior programmer at HBO and you want to pitch a TV show to the CEO? You can't do that. So I remember on the way to the CEO's office, someone telling me I could not go to his office for her own reasons, not my reasons, her reasons. She couldn't do that. Fast forward, someone who worked at JP Morgan. Oh, I want to be a hedge fund manager. I'm raising money now for a hedge fund. What, have you ever worked at an investment bank? No. Have you ever worked at a hedge fund? No. Did you go to business school? No. Well, you can't do that. And this was a guy who hated his life. He hated his job. He eventually tried to start a hedge fund, but then ended up back at a bank. But I did it. I started one. And then another time, and there's many times, another time, I remember I was doing stand-up comedy and I was about to do, for the first time ever, my first 60-minute set. 60 minutes is difficult to do. And seconds before I was going to go on, a comedian came up to me and said, yo, James, you can't skip the line here. Like, you got to pay your dues. You got to stand in line like all the other comedians. And then literally at that moment, the MC calls me to the stage and I'm supposed to go 60 minutes when this guy basically told me I was worthless until I stood in line. And so to anybody who's ever been frustrated like that, I wanted to put together a series of techniques and stories, not only of myself and others, but many techniques for how you can skip the line. How do you find what you're passionate about? How do you get good at it quickly? Forget the 10,000 hour rule. I come up with ways to use what I call the 10,000 experiment rule, where you can much more quickly get to the top 1% of your field so that you can monetize it. And since that moment I did my first 60-minute set, I've toured all over the world doing comedy now. Everywhere from the Netherlands to, I'm going next week to the Mall of America in Minnesota. Catch me there. And so I wanted to do this. I hadn't seen anything like this written before in my particular way. A lot of times you see academic research. This is how you could learn. This is how you can memorize. But none of that stuff works. I used what actually worked and described the stories. So why did I go with a major publisher? I just wanted to shake things up. Like, I wanted to see, what it'd be like to, when you use Amazon. And by the way, people think when you say Amazon, it's just an ebook. Well, on Amazon, I do a paperback, I do an ebook. Sometimes I do a hardcover, I do an audiobook. You could do the whole thing as if you're your own publishing company. And Amazon and self-publishing is great. But I wanted to use HarperCollins because I knew this editor for over a dozen years and she wanted to work with me. And I wanted to try working with her. And I just wanted to go through the process. And every now and then you want to mix things up so people don't know what to expect and why. Everything's a story. So now, later on when I talk about my publishing experiences, I have this extra story of, okay, I went back to traditional, but now I'm also doing this audiobook thing with Charlemagne that came out of the blue. And you and I basically self-published your TV series. So it's always interesting. The media world is changing and you could choose yourself to skip the line, to have a TV series, to publish a bestseller, to make your own game if you want, or to make your own clothing line, whatever it is you want to do. You can do it the traditional way. You could do it in a self-published, choose yourself sort of way, or you could do some sort of hybrid, which is what I always like to do.